in your practice and as you work with survivors and people who are healing from, childhood trauma and complex trauma and things like that. Um, what's the journey like of helping somebody get reconnected with their heart?
Mm. Honestly, it's in many ways it starts with you being able to provide a safe place for them,
Mhm.
a place where, and sometimes that takes,
Mhm.
depending on the individual, it can take a couple of years for there to be enough trust for them to be able to say, okay, I can trust you to bring another can of Coke from the warehouse out and sit it on the table in front of us,
Mhm.
and begin to partake of that can.
Mhm.
So so I think that is part of the journey, is being able to you yourself to come in without your own agenda, if you will, and to just be present.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
that to me is one of the biggest gifts I think that any individual working with people who have had experience with trauma can give to the other individual,
Mm. That's
which
so good.
is basic, but it is tantamount.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it is. And I know that's how my heart began to open up to all that was there. It was simply a kind man
Mhm.
that loved Jesus, sitting with my heart and listening and letting me cry and not being intimidated by the tears. And I've watched you do that so many times, Linda, where you just let people talk about whatever they need to talk about and you don't interject yourself or your knowledge or your training on them, that you literally let their heart open up and pour out onto the table what needs to come.
Mm.
And I feel like it's such a gift. And it blesses my heart so much to sit and to learn that and to learn
Mhm.
to sit with my own heart and to sit with other people's hearts and not be threatened by what comes out or what's on the table.
Mm. Mhm. Well, and it does feel like, I mean, I oftentimes will say to my clients, because they'll come in and where do I go, right? Or I don't know what to talk about today, or we all have those blank moments of I don't know, I'm here, I don't know what to say, don't know where should we go? And I think from where I sit is that all roads lead to Rome.
Mhm.
I've heard you say that several times.
Mm.
I've sat in
So
sessions and
good.
gone, okay, I'm getting really impatient here. And it's so true. It happens so often that people they feel free to talk, they feel safe to talk, and eventually you get to where you need to get.
Mhm.
And so it's sort of like jump in wherever you just jump wherever you need to go, and wherever, and it might feel like it's inconsequential, it might feel like it's a random dream, it might feel like, it's like it doesn't have anything to do with today and this moment, and it's like, but in the reality is it does. And so you take us what is on your heart and your mind, and that's what is here, that's what we'll engage.
So good. So true. What makes a person safe?
Hmm. I mean, TJ, you mentioned it earlier about being non-judgmental in some respects. I mean, it's not that I have always been that way. Um, there are times, right? I'm human, and that truly is the case, where somebody has said it feels like you were judgmental in that statement, and you know, my initial thought was, well, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be judgmental in those places. So, um, I think part of it is coming with, I don't have an agenda.
Mhm.
That, I mean, This
Mhm.
is not my therapy session, it's yours, and you can take us wherever you want to go. Um, I have noticed that there are times when somebody comes in just totally blank and they'll say, will you take us where we need to go? And when I have unwittingly stepped in, that has not taken us, I mean, anywhere of good consequences, right? I mean, it's almost like
Mm.
where I think you need to go and where you think you need to go may be two very separate things. And
Mhm.
so when I try to drive that bus, is usually not terribly helpful. Because it's not that they don't need to go there, but it is that they're not ready. I mean, when they say you take us where you want us to go, it's rarely a good scenario. So I think part of the safety is you yourself also being consistent,
Mm.
being
Mhm.
steady.
Mm.
Um, I mean, y'all know me well enough to know that I can get fired up about stuff, and particularly the injustices of humanity. So I also sometimes have to kind of back that off just a little bit and not be so expressive in those places. And then there are other times when I think it's appropriate, right? It's appropriate for you to, for me anyway, to be literally to come alongside and express my own outrage on what has happened to them because nobody has ever had an outrage. Nobody's had tears for them. Nobody, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's
Mm.
nobody's had that. I mean, they haven't felt like they're human beings. And so literally just to be able to be, I had a friend of mine who we've known each other for many, many years. And she wrote me, we hadn't spoken a long time. And she wrote me and she goes, oh my gosh, you're one of the best listeners. And I'm thinking, well, I'm not for sure about that, but okay. And part of it, she goes, you just let me talk. I just needed to talk. And I just kept, and she did, she just kept spilling one story after the other, right? Um,
Mhm.
and she goes, I didn't realize how much I needed that. I needed the ability to have somebody just
Mhm.
be present.
Mhm.
And I think that in part is safety.
Mhm. Mhm. I know for me in sessions when I began to know my story or to be invited to know my story, I safety for me was knowing that somebody wasn't going to put themselves upon me again. I had to know that I could be present and begin to very slowly come out of my shell. And I wasn't going to be squashed by somebody's arrogance, somebody's violent, vile ways against me. And I was going to have a voice that was actually heard.
Having a voice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Victims don't have voices most of the time. And so having that place to be able to start
Mm-hmm.
processing, sharing, talking without being shut down or shut up or shoved aside is a powerful, powerful thing. And I think even Linda, you know, you, at the beginning when you're talking about being non-judgmental and someone said, well, I feel a little judged from that comment. Somebody who didn't feel safe wouldn't even have been able to say that. So
Mm-hmm.
even in that moment, providing a place where people can start to speak up in the midst of safe people and of places where they know that there's going to be a give and take and not just a take.
Mm-hmm.
It's so
Mm-hmm.
powerful.
Well, and even in that moment for me to have my own, I mean, it's not that I had to walk away from that session and think about it and say, Jesus, what was going on here and where was I? And that's not who I want to be. Um, that's how they felt. And so that's how they felt. Whether I was or I wasn't, that was how it registered to them. And so even for me to come and say, that's not who I want to be, that's not um, who I want you to experience in this session. And for me to have humility of my own heart to say, I'm so sorry.
Something else survivors don't rarely hear. I'm so sorry. Yeah.
And then to be able to say, thank you for bringing that to my attention, which is heard of. And it wasn't a sense of my saying the right thing. Because I don't want anybody to feel judged.